Do you have trouble with values? Well, I have a really good exercise where we're doing a night scene. And it doesn't always have to be daylight in your paintings. So this time we're going to be exploring some value studies using only black and white. Well, 3 years ago, Josh and I did a night shoot in Quesnel, and one of the areas we were shooting was on the west side, and there's this lovely little house. I think it's occupied, but maybe sometimes not. Anyway, it's an old cabin type of house. I have no idea about how old it is, but probably maybe the turn of the century, and not this one either. So, yeah, maybe early 1900s, we'll see. And have it in front of me here. This is, I've put it, we did the photo shoot in color, of course, and then on the computer I put it over to black and white. And it just has some of these amazing value qualities. So you don't always need to do daytime things with shadows and things. Sometimes shadows and the essence of the night are really fascinating and somewhat mysterious. So here's another view, a more close-up view. But I really like this, business of the reflection. Anyway, and look at the fence. It's, all higgledy-piggledy. And of course, as artists, we love that kind of thing. This is my first study in acrylic. And even though I put retarder on the paint, it was sort of, not really working as well as I would have liked. I mean, it has mystery, but we're losing so much detail. So here, we're going to be doing it Pochoir style, where we're going to be inking portions that I've cut out. And you can see with Pochoir, you do all these bits and pieces separately. We have all sorts of little pieces that I've cut out, and I didn't want to show you all this cutting business because it's kind of meditative and doesn't lend itself all that well to YouTube. So, and some of it's a bit fiddly, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we'll have a good result. So we start with the gel plate, my 8x10 gel plate, and we just have our black and white to deal with, of course. So I'm just going to put a little bit of acrylic black. This is Amsterdam. And this is Winsor Newton Galleria White. It has a little bit more opacity, so rather than the Amsterdam white. This is medium viscosity, I think. Right. So now we're going to mix a middle gray and enough of it so that we can cover all the plate. And at the bottom, we're going to put a layer of white. So it'll be a graded tone. So a little bit more. We want the lights and the white trees to really stand out. And the snow is not a pristine white, so we're going to mix that for the base. So a couple of solid values here. Might add just a tad more of the black. All right, let's get our roller. And we want just a light coat, but a really nice one. I'm going to add just a little bit of retarder to that. And here's our weight layer. Just about here in the middle. And then dark again on the bottom. Actually, maybe a touch more black here because we want that reflection to show up. So just we'll have some Pochoir pieces here anyway, so it doesn't really matter so much at the bottom, but we'll put it in. Okay, let's print that. This is just multimedia, good drawing paper. Okay, the reason I'm doing this in acrylic is it just gives a better base coat, and oil paint will go over this acrylic coat. I just want it fairly consistent. Okay. All right, we have some interesting things happening in there, but that's okay. Most of it will be covered up with a Pochoir. So that's our base layer. Now we clean. Because the paint was just put on, we could just use water. Your plate should be quite clean, and just to finish that off, put some mineral oil on it. Okay, I have all my little Pochoir pieces here, just to show you all this cutting that I did and how it fits together. And it's finicky, so I had to take the fence off because it has to go on separately. And the house, of course. And just to show you, this is oil relief printing inks. Daniel Smith, burnt sienna. And the rest are Shiva, and they're oil-based printing inks. This is white, ultramarine, and some yellow. I had a really tough time getting the lid off this one. That's why it's kind of twisted. All right, so we're going to handle this carefully with tweezers. And I'm not using black. Black is kind of dull, so we're using ultramarine blue. and our burnt sienna. We'll mix up a goodly amount here, and just a touch of the yellow. That makes it grayer. Otherwise it would be more of a brownish tone, and we want a black tone. So more of the ultramarine ink. You can see we have a good black. So now we have to ink. And I have a couple of little brayers here. For the big areas we'll use this one, and for the little tiny ones we'll use this one. And I have some wax paper. Tape that down. And this is where you get to hear the snick that when your paint is in good shape. So we're going to... So with Pochoir, it's sort of like a puzzle. You ink all the different pieces, you put it on a background, and then because we don't have an etching press, we're using a gel plate. Then we put the gel plate on there and lift it off, and hopefully it's got all the paint. And then we print it. So, but all the pieces go together bit by bit until you've got the whole image together. Now, because you're using a gel plate, everything reverses, and it reverses twice. So I'm using the forward one, the one that looks just like this. So, and then when it goes to the gel plate, it reverses, and then when we print it, it reverses back. I know this is confusing, but that's the way it works. And then you have it the right way around. This is all going to be, except this is black and this is white back in here, or we're going to be several tones of gray actually. So we want that background to be fairly bright. So not a lot of gray here, but just enough to put it in the background. And it has to be fairly bright because our base layer is not that dark. And there's a couple of areas where we're going to actually put the lamp here. And then we'll see about the rest. Okay. And just rolling out. Now I don't know if you're going to be, our sound system is going to be able to pick up the snick thing when you get it just right. Maybe. I can hear it. All right, so we're just going to brayer on our white. It's about the same color, so everything on here. And because we don't have to worry about drying, we can take our time with the inking, make sure it's inked really well. All right. Let me take that off. And this one's not hard to place. And I'm just going to attach it here with a bit of tape. Now, if there's any spill on the side, you can take it off now. Okay. Now things are going to get a little bit fiddlier. And I want it just a wee bit brighter because this has to do with the all the windows, and that's brighter than back here. So that's probably your purest white. So I'm just wiping back my little brayer because we want that to be a fairly bright white. So you can use Mylar. This is Yupo transparent paper. Well, it's not paper, it's actually a plastic kind of thing. Not my favorite choice, but that's what I had. Tyvek actually works really good, the artistic kind. Here's where our tweezers come in. And I'll show you that once I've placed it. There we go, there's the next white layer. Okay, now we're getting into the black layers. Just brayering off my brayer. I might wipe it too. This is where we get, this is the darkest part of the whole composition. We want the house to be really stark, mysterious. All right, so we can take it directly from here. And this is why we did this white layer to begin with, because we need those windows shining through. The light in the windows. Now be careful because they have some delicacy. I don't know if that helps. Now we're going to be wiping away this part because that's the snow on the roof. Okay, and then with our little tweezers here. Okay. Okay, we got our little fence to ink up. And it's another slight variation in tone. We'll take a little bit of the gray. So look at all the values we have so far already. It's sort of, you can go to an infinite number of different grays and things. And this can apply to color as well. All right, so we're gonna ink our little fence. Make sure we have lots. It gets put on position here, and it's handy to have those cutout areas. They should be able to slide in there if they don't move. Yeah, we'll adjust at the end just before we print. The fence is sort of in front of the house. Okay, so the last part is just in here, and we can do it directly on there because, you know, this back is, you know, we can wipe it back and so forth. So it's not quite black like the house. This is, if you notice, it's actually quite almost a middle gray tone. So we're going to use this one with a little bit of the black. A little bit darker. We want those white areas to show up. Pop it in there. So far, so good. Now the rest is just cleaning up this base plate a little bit. And I'll do that off camera. And then get rid of this, and then we can print. Okay, I'm just gonna put an extra touch on that lamp. That's the brightest part. Now I just want to make sure everything is in the right place. And this, we have this base layer here, the white. Now I guess we could have done a little bit more when we, and I might just do that. Okay, I'd like to see a little bit more in there. So let's put this aside for now. Get our plate back. You know, always be in control of what you're doing when you see things are not exactly the way you want them. You know, don't be in a rush. Take your time. And we're just gonna maybe add a little bit more gray to that. Very dry in here this morning. Our temperature outside, Josh, is what, about minus 20? 21. So we'll do the white area first. We're just going to have to gauge where it lands in there. So not too white. That's the trouble. Just give it a bit of pizzazz. And then up here we're going to be just a little bit darker. We want it a little bit more like a medium to dark gray. And then roll them together at the bottom here. So there's not a really large that's better. I mean, it can be mottled. It doesn't have to be a really solid, sort of pedantic kind of gray. You want paper towel. So it should have a little bit more contrast. Otherwise our white trees are really not going to show up that well because they're not totally white. They're on the gray side, which is good. That's what we wanted. Oh, much better. Oh, yes. Look at that. Perfect. Okay, we'll take a quick interlude because this has got to dry for a second. Okay, we're ready to print. Cross your fingers and toes and hopefully all is good. Now with an etching press, of course, it's all direct and you don't have to go through this extra step. But, you know, some of us don't have etching presses, and this is one way to get a Pochoir print. I mean, you could do it directly on paper as well without the gel plate, but this is why we use etching presses, because it's very tedious and you have to use a wooden spoon or whatever to really get that image. So the gel plate picks up a really good image. Now hopefully we have all our trees and things. And we need to lift off this. Our little fence. And then this piece. And this piece. Oops. Okay. Now it's looking really good on the gel plate. We even have our light standard here with a glow around it. Now that's awesome. And the last part. Such excitement. Now you could use printmaking paper and wet it down. I think we're going to be all right with it dry. We'll have a peek. We may need to dampen the paper. Sometimes that's done. It's good quality paper. It's not going to delaminate. And so let's have a peek at this. Wow. We have a little bit of cropping to do here, right here and here, which is fine. We'll show that at the end. Yes, our light is nice. The windows are interesting. I don't know what happened with this funny circle, but that's okay. I guess our fence could have been a little bit lighter yet. And we could print that directly. Ink it once more and then just print it directly. Except we'd have to print, you know, ink the other side. And we might do that. But there's our little house on the west side of Quesnel. Someday, if you're ever in Quesnel, then go and look for it. Take care and bye for now.